What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and we received a video, or at least it was released on YouTube a little bit ago from the folks at Dungeons & Dragons called D&D Studio Update and 2024 Core Rulebooks and Survey Results. Apparently, this has both Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford in it. Also, if you're unaware, they were in the process of changing studios. It was actually part of the process when we went out there in April for the Creator Summit. That's why you've also noticed potentially in some of the videos, they're like in the lobby and you could see people walking back and forth and hear doors being shut because the area where they normally film wasn't ready. So we're going to watch this. This is a 28-minute video, so I will put this at 1.5 times speed. We'll see how that feels, and we might adjust it down. But 28 minutes is a pretty long video, and if we're going to interject commentary, shortening it up by at least a little bit would be useful. We might go to 2 times speed if it's really slow. If it sounds pretty normal, we might speed it up a little bit. So here we go. This is the video. I'll have a link to it in the video description if you'd like to hear it. Playback speed 1.5 times. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Today we have a bit of a fireside chat with Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford, and we are talking about a number of topics. Some of that's going to be UA, but mainly we're talking about the 2024 Core Rulebooks and how they apply to all the D&D books that have come out since 2014 and all the books that are going to come out after 2024. So tell me a little bit about how these books bring everything together and how things are going to be moving forward.
So you can think of these books as the culmination of the last decade, where we have all been playing D&D, DMing, talking about the game, creating content for it. And here I'm talking about not only the members of the D&D team, but everyone in the entire D&D community have been engaged in this. People giving feedback on Unearthed Arcana. These rulebooks represent that decade of conversation among all of us D&D fans, and is our chance to make the foundational books of the game, the 3 core rulebooks, reflect the best state of the game in 2024. Because as we have developed the game since 2014, we've made a number of interesting design choices, experiments, explored new directions in later books that can now feed into the core books so that they get to be state of the art. Because since they are the oldest books in the line, that means they don't currently get to benefit from some of the things we've learned over the years. The 2024 books are our chance for those foundational books where they'll.
So I just want to throw out there, I don't know about you, but this sounds completely normal to me, and we are at 1.5 times speed.
Whole game to incorporate all of those lessons.
Yeah, we want the gateway products for the 5th edition line to be among the best looking, easiest to read, most mechanically robust that we can, so that it's a great first experience for somebody coming into the game.
And a part of that, creating that experience, we have also endeavored to make it so that these books will work with the products that fed into them. So you will be able to play a 5th edition adventure you already own, like Curse of Strahd, right, or the Planescape that just came out, or the things coming out between now and the core books. All of those you will be able to use with the 2024 rulebooks that we have designed to both look backward and forward, because we view the game as this living thing now that is continuing, and rather than this being a stop or a pause,
right,
this is a renovation. Let's make the foundation of the game even stronger so that we can have another decade, or however long is then after that. The key for us is that the new books will not only introduce all sorts of new options, whether it's weapon mastery or bastions or new subclass options or new class features and new equipment, new magic items, on and on and on, new monsters. All of that new is going to coexist seamlessly with the material that is already in the game. And in any case where maybe we have adjusted how something functions, the core rulebooks will walk right beside you and make it clear how that new functionality interacts with 5th edition books you already have. So you're not going to need like a conversion guide or anything like that. You're going to be able to just get these books and keep playing. And you'll even have the option of having mixed character groups. You might have somebody who has made a character using the 2014 version of a class and its subclasses right next to somebody who's using the 2024 version of that class and subclasses.
Yeah. Or if you're a DM running a game at home, you can pull monsters from the new monster manual, Monsters of the Multiverse, or any adventure that we've published, or any stat block that we've released on DDB, and all of that meshes together.
You can have 2 different players playing Fey Warlocks, and one from 2014, one from 2024, and they're going to be seamless and work together. Fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I think people are going to want to play the 2024 version.
I do too.
Yeah, everybody's going to want to play the 2024 version, unless, in my opinion, could be wrong, you have a class that you deem is nerfed. Now, I think we can pretty much say across the board from having seen the results and the adjustments, Fey Warlock being an example, pretty subpar option in my opinion, not unplayable, but subpar in 2020 or 2014, but in 2024, heaps better than it was. Now, perhaps, again, it would be a weird situation, and I'm not sure how I would handle this as a DM. You know what? Honestly, I think it just comes down to people being upfront and honest at the start. Because, like, hey, if you really want to play the 2014 Paladin because you can smite twice a turn or whatever it is, I'm okay with that. You're missing out on a lot of awesome features that you wouldn't get from playing the 2024 ones. But if you ultimately want to play it, that's fine, right? I don't have a problem with that. I think it was like the same concept. I mean, I know it's not supposed to be, but like, if you were playing in a 3.5E game and somebody was playing with a 3E subclass, unless, you know, I mean, for the most part, I would allow it unless there was like a direct correlation that was like, this was way out of bounds. But I don't know. Let me know how you feel. Would you allow people to play from both books, same subclass potentially, at the same table? Right, I feel like the best example would be like, hey, they didn't update my subclass from 2014. It's still, or from, you know, into 2024. I really want to play the Tempest Domain Cleric, and they didn't make a new version of it. Can I play the Tempest Domain Cleric, but with the new Cleric rules? That I could definitely see. But like, hey, can I just play the 2014 Oath of the Ancients Paladin because it's stronger than the 2024 one? How do you feel about that?
In fact, I have the Unearthed Arcana feedback that indicates that at least the people who took the survey agree with me.
Right.
Because my goodness, did that subclass leap up in satisfaction?
Did it step up because of all the Misty steps? Sorry.
Yes, it did step up because of all the Misty
boo.
steps. And now I'm imagining a movie about dancing. We're gonna step up onto the streets. So, if I know we always love talking about scores,
Right.
the Archfey Warlock used to be one of the lowest rated
Right.
Warlock subclasses.
Reasonable.
As of the UA in which it just appeared, it is at 89% satisfaction.
Woo.
Satisfaction scores for a community as large as ours usually don't get any higher than maybe like between 90 and 93%. Just simply because the D&D audience is so massive, you can almost think as 90% is about as close as you're going to get to 100% satisfaction. So if something has 89% satisfaction, that is essentially home run.
Yeah.
And you know, and the warlocks are running around the bases.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna,
with their patrons.
That's right. They're Misty stepping
really
around.
cheating. Yeah. I was gonna say just like bloop, 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 bloop.
Misty stepped from first base right back to home.
Baseball just becomes checkers. Yeah. No, that is.
Sorry, I know they've been increasing their volume, so I'm trying to adjust it accordingly. If you hear like bumps in the sound.
It's one of my favorite subclasses to be tested so far, for sure. So what's interesting, because we're talking about the evolution, because we've had Monsters of the Multiverse, and we've had changes as from 2014, 10 years later, a lot has gone on, and there's been some variation, but we already talked about this before, but it's like 2014, and then this linear growth of 5th edition, and you all are trying to take 2024, the core rulebooks, and not be the beginning of something, but in the very center of everything, like the center of the web, the center of the cog that unites all the books that have existed and all the books that will exist in 5th edition.
Exactly.
Yes.
These books are the uniter. They connect to the best options that have existed up until they come out, and they set the stage for new options that will come out after they're released.
Was this fun? Was this hard? Like, what was this process like?
Both, actually.
Why not both?
Yeah, so it's a fun challenge, just from a design point of view, but also cramming in as many new Easter eggs as we can into the books has been very exciting and rewarding. Seeing the art, you know, stepping up the art in the core rulebooks so that the core rulebooks now have some of the most fabulous art that you can find anywhere in fantasy, I think has been enormously fun to see that.
And covering a lot more, like you mentioned, classes are getting art, subclasses are getting
That's
art,
right.
and very indicative of those classes. Like
Yeah.
I've seen some of this art, and it just blew my mind of how smartly it was done.
Yes, we have more resources at our disposal now than we did back in 2012 when we were putting the core rulebooks together, and so we're just pouring a lot of beautiful, beautiful work into these books and turning them into real showpieces.
Yeah, because now, you know, every class opens with a full-page piece of art. Every subclass has an illustration of a character who is a member of that subclass. More spells are illustrated in the Player's Handbook.
More magic items are illustrated in the DMG.
Yeah.
More monsters.
And the Monster Manual, for anyone who hasn't heard us talk about it before, has over 80 brand new monsters in it. This is on top of the monsters from 2014.
I mean, it's a really cool opportunity just to see like new layouts. And
This is actually something that I'm glad they took this into account. This is actually something that when we had like our lunch break at the Creator Summit, and they basically, a couple of the people around the table were like, what would you like to see? And one of my biggest suggestions was art. I would love to see more art. Like, I would love every single magic item that exists to have a piece of art, every subclass to have a piece of art. Also cool to hear 80 new monsters, which we kind of heard there was going to be new almost archetypical monsters for like a CR20 monster for every type of creature, right? CR20 ooze, a CR20 beast, a CR20 whatever. But 80 on top of, so look at your 2024 monster manual, all those monsters plus an additional 80. It's pretty nice.
And a lot more, like the font sizes are changing. I know this is a weird thing to be excited about, but like...
You do, you talk.
I'm getting old, I have trouble reading. But there's like a lot of great like quality of life improvements and how these books are now structured. That will be like, like it's going to be friendlier for those who are new to this hobby as well.
Yes, we're doing a bunch of UX explorations in terms of how information is presented on the page, how we can beautify the pages, making it easier to, making them more beautiful, and also making it easier to navigate so that you can find the information you need. And that is a glorious challenge. And I think people will be delighted. Truly delighted by some of the innovations they're going to see.
And on top of the brand new play experiences they're going to have. People have gotten to see through the Unearthed Arcana process that at least half of the classes are being revolutionized in terms of how they play, thanks to the introduction of weapon mastery. We have the Bastion system that gives a new kind of mini game that can occur between sessions. And there's a whole lot more that people are going to see that, the stuff that they love will be there, but tuned up, paired with brand new options. And then you're going to be able to, as so many of us love to as D&D players and DMs, tinker with it all and mix it up in ways that are satisfying for your individual campaign.
But we still have some surprises. Not everyone, you're not going to see everything in UA that's
absolutely not.
Coming up.
So we're making sure that every major piece of class design does appear in UA at least once.
Right.
But there are going to be some spells that people won't see, brand new spells that people won't see until the book is out.
Okay.
There are a bunch of monsters people won't see until the books are out. There are magic items people won't see until the books are
fine.
out. Unless, of course, we next year do some previews. I mean, I suspect there will be previews.
I don't care about, new monsters. I don't care about, I care about them. Let me rephrase. I care about new monsters. I care about new magic items. I don't need to play test those. New spells, I would be curious to play test. This is the kind of thing we want to see, but either way.
Where you will see some of it before,
Yeah.
But they will not be a part of the UA process.
I mean, it's interesting because we're not used to getting like such a substantial update and having an edition last 10 years. But the idea is like the Planescape campaign guide is the 5th edition Planescape campaign guide, definitively. Like this is the thing. Curse of Strahd. This is Curse of Strahd for 5th edition and for the 2024 core rulebooks. You're not getting a different version of this adventure later that needs to be revamped. Pardon my pun. It's there. It's done, and we have revamped it. But like that's what's exciting is like Big B's. You can pick up Big B's now. The deck of many things. You can grab Planescape, and it's all going to be connected to the core rulebooks.
Absolutely, because we developed a book like Big B's while we were working on the new core books. Now the new core books are going to have like new ways of presenting certain kinds of information, enhancements to the stat block format, that sort of thing. But none of those changes make the thing that you already have stop working. You will still be able to use one of those fabulous giant stat blocks in Big B Presents with your 2024 core rulebooks. And I say that because there could be, especially the closer we get to release and when people see parts of the books, an inclination to see that something is different and then ponder, does that mean it doesn't work anymore? And the answer is no, it will keep working. The things will keep working together because we have been very careful throughout this edition to kind of segment things off in terms of the design. It is possible for us to change something over here without creating a shockwave over there. We've made it so that we can make enhancements also to presentation that do not undermine how the system functions.
Yeah. And if you've been following us on our journey through 5th edition, you've seen us do this kind of thing before. Like, the monsters in Monsters of the Multiverse, the stat blocks, are formatted slightly differently than some of the earlier monster stat blocks that we presented, but they work perfectly together.
Yep.
This is a continuation of that.
And in Tasha's, another example where we presented new optional class features. And in the years since that book came out, people have seen you can have a warlock who doesn't use the Tasha's features playing next to a warlock who does, and they can coexist. With the 2024 rulebooks, it's going to be the exact same kind of thing, where sure, your third characters might have a few different abilities, but you can still play together.
Has there been like any delightful surprises? Like I know the Bastion system I'm fairly well obsessed with, but like in this process, like something that came up or some new idea. I know weapon mastery comes up a lot because that is kind of a game changer in a huge way for especially if you're a melee class fighter. But is there anything that was like a delight? Bastions I'm obsessed with because that inevitably, especially Ravenloft, because I love to introduce a Bastion-like thing or like a home base, because nothing's better with horror than like a house that can be haunted. Like give someone like financial stake in a house and then haunt it, or have a vampire invade it, and see where that breaking point is. Have we gone too far? Have we sold the property? But like, is there what excites you the most?
Oh gosh.
It's hard because combined, the 3 new books,
Yeah.
which are the biggest versions of
All
the
three.
Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual the
Yeah.
game has ever had, the 3 combined will be close to 1,000 pages. And so there is a lot that in there that we have been carefully tending and working on. And so yeah, if we pause, it's like, oh my God, I love so much of it. But really, if I had to choose, I'm most excited about how some of the brand new options, when paired with things that are already in the game, will not only feel new on their own because they're brand new, but are also going to make old things feel new.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you pair some of these new options with an old thing, the whole context changes. And that's true with weapon mastery. That's true of some of the new feats that are going to be in the Player's Handbook. That's true of some of the new spells, magic items, monsters, and other game options that are present. You'll have sometimes this one element that will get added in, and even though everything around, it's like, oh yeah, I recognize that from 2014, but it will all feel different because of that introduction of that new thing that shifts the whole context. And there's something like that in just about every part of the game. Whether it's the changing encounter building rules, or the way we're organizing treasure. Like that is different, and how that will be noted in the new monster manual.
So we've talked about encounter building rules in the past, and how encounters CR system is the general rule, and encounter building has been kind of off in the DMG and the monster manual. But I'm very curious about this new treasure formatting,
and so on and so forth. That there are also
it also mentioned the monster manual. They mentioned the monster manual, which traditionally in 5e we don't really have treasure associated with monsters. It basically doesn't exist. Now that's a thing we've seen in the past, where defeating a certain monster, it would list kind of specific things. And you might have some monsters that might have a specific magic item, right? That like, oh, they have this item. It'll be listed as like special equipment in their stat block that you could then procure for yourself. That is not the case really for the most part in 5th edition. To then reference that treasure will be in the monster manual, we may be seeing a return to classical form, in that like, hey, you beat this monster, this is what they have on them, gold wise, maybe magic item wise. I think they said there will be pricing for magic items in 2024 as well. I'm wondering if they'll reiterate it here.
sorts of these little beautiful grace notes in every part of the game that bring new options, change your perspective on how that piece of the game works, gives you a new option, gives you new inspiration for making your own content, and so on.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I would add that for me, one of the most exciting things is the chance to go back and just drop in a few new little surprises for people. And also just pay off on, now that we've got 10 years of playing the game and analyzing and hearing from folks, we know what some of the pain points are in the books, and we can address them. Things like, well, there aren't very many common magic items in the magic items chapter of the DMG, so we'll put a few more in, that kind of thing. And then sprinkle in a few little surprises, like, oh, here's a new item that not only fills kind of like a hole or a niche, but actually kind of taps into something else in the D&D multiverse that we haven't touched on really yet, that opens up possibilities for products and stories in the future.
Could you have had any idea that this would be going on this long for 5th edition? It just grabbed people immediately. Like, I remember everyone telling me about 5th edition and saying, you really got to try it, you have to jump in. And I was immediately enchanted. It started with interviewing you all, and then I bought all the books. And I'm like, oh, this is so fantastic. That's gotta be gratifying, right? Or humbling? I don't know which.
Both?
Yes, yes, it's gratifying that people care enough and enjoy the game enough to want to see where it goes next and to be part of that creative process. That's enormously gratifying. It's a wonderful honor to get information from the community that helps us make the experience better for everyone. Like when we hear, oh, you could do more in the game to support high-level play with more high-level monsters in the monster manual. We can address that.
You heard him. He said it. High-level monsters for high-level play. Now, monsters, I would argue, is good. That is definitely a good thing. However, most of us want high-level campaigns. Maybe we'll get that. Who knows?
And then cackle with delight as we come up with CR20 threats to sneak into this book.
Be careful what you wish for. You've been kind of on tour this year. You've been going to a lot of conventions. What's that experience like when you get to like meet fans? Because sometimes I even forget, like, we're also busy and you're busier than me. But like when you go to a con, you get to have this human-to-human interaction and you see what these books and these games mean to people. What have some of these takeaways been?
One of my favorite things about going to Gen Con this year is we had our panel where we talked about some of the things we're most excited about in the 3 new core rulebooks. And I loved that after that panel, the number of people over the rest of Gen Con who would come up to me and say, I wasn't sure about the 2024 rulebooks until I listened to that panel, and now I can't wait to get them. And I think we can certainly convey that excitement and convey information in conversations like this, but there's a special magic to when you get to have those conversations together face to face.
Yeah, it's a totally different experience than, say, reading survey data.
So this also, I mean, we're touching on points that I think are important here, right? We're talking about how, yeah, they are going out and meeting people. This was one of the things we stressed earlier in the year post OGL, like, get yourself out there, show that you actually want to meet people. My only kind of biggest concern was that Gen Con panel. There weren't that many people there. It was a good panel, but they also switched the location of the panel at the last second and moved it out of the main, like, Gen Con convention center, like across the street and, like, you know, quarter mile away. Like, you had to walk over and do a whole, like, you didn't know where it was. So there was maybe 50 to 100 people tops in that panel, but there was a ton of empty space. That's why I did my best to try to capture and live tweet as much of it as possible. And I will say, it did kind of give me a more of a warm and fuzzy for the 2024 rulebooks, hearing some of the stuff they talked about. Some of it, data-wise, is still questionable, but it's nice to see that they are enjoying their interactions with fans and people aren't just, like, attacking them. That the interaction, again, seems to be mostly positive, which is, I think, a good thing.
On UAs, which is completely dissociated from the human connection. In the wake of the pandemic, it's kind of shocking to me. It's like, oh yeah, this is nice. It's nice to be back out at these places and talking to folks in the flesh and hearing what they have to say about their characters, about their campaigns, about their fears and concerns, and about their joy at being able to play with their friends and see this game sort of carry on its legacy.
So UA's been going on. We've got some survey results. You mentioned that Feywild Warlock did quite well, which is shocker. I like a good teleporter. Well, like, did we get any feedback from the Bastion system already?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
But I'm very curious.
So the data that we have right now is for the UA right before that. And the scores were fantastic. Great Old One Warlock, 87%. The Abjurer in the Wizard, 78%. The Diviner, 81%. You go through and the satisfaction levels, and again, for anyone joining us for the first time, and to talk about scores, we're always looking for a score that is 70% or higher. Right. That is our goal. And right now, I'm looking at the scores for everything that was in that UA, and it looks like every single thing scored 70% or higher, except for the Brawler in the Fighter, and also a few features within the Barbarian. And so because of that...
But my World Tree Barbarian is safe, though, right?
World Tree Barbarian is safe. So part of sometimes the pain of this process is the Brawler didn't make it. We might revisit the Brawler, because we've talked before about sometimes it's just not the time for something.
Right.
And we can put the idea on a shelf, and we can come back to it. What we found is the Brawler's niche for people just wasn't clear enough. There was sort of a lot of conceptual static for people between it and the Monk and the Barbarian.
We know the Brawler was better than the Monk in almost every way, and that's it, well, at least in being a punchy fighter, it was the best version of it, so that was the problem. And again, I'll get to this at the end.
And so we're going to go in a different direction for that subclass slot in the fighter. But the Path of the World Tree Barbarian made it, but does have some things that need tweaks. So people are going to see the base Barbarian along with that subclass come back out in Unearthed Arcana, along with the Monk and the Druid. So right now, in a game that has 12 classes, 9 of them, or rather a core book that has 12, we never forget the Artificer.
Okay, they mentioned it at
9
least.
of them now are moving forward in our internal game dev, with just the Druid, Monk, and Barbarian needing another visit to Unearthed Arcana.
And I know
I'm a little shocked to hear the Barbarian still needs playtest. The Monk, honestly, I thought the Druid was fine. The Monk is obviously, in my opinion, the biggest problem. But the Druid, the Monk, and the Barbarian, interestingly enough. The Monk obviously only had one iteration, so it absolutely needs playtest. But that also means, again, we're talking about criticality and timing here.
Jeremy has said this 100 times, but the UA process, the way it's built is, everything that you've seen in UA is trial balloons. And so when the player's handbook comes out again in 2024, that will be really, for many people, their first chance to see these elements in their final form. And we're going to be making little tiny boop, 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 tweaks right up until the time that the books are no longer in our hands.
Outside of like big profound things like why do we keep doing making D&D, why do we love it? We got a new building, so that's nice, and a studio space that is not next to a microwave. So you're welcome. Hilarious that we started out making these videos 7 years ago with just a door slamming next to us, and I was just taping fabric to the walls as a backdrop. We actually have a studio setting, not with all the bells and whistles yet, but we also have a new building, which there's a Ravenloft section, which is amazing. I'm sad that we're not stationed in that section.
I actually, most of the time when I'm in the building, I work in the Ravenloft.
You're in the
section.
Ravenloft. We have different little sections that have themes in the building. So okay, well now you know where Jeremy is lurking.
Lorking.
It's a Jeremy-shaped coffin with like a light and a laptop desk.
Whereas I've been in the Feywild all day.
Yes. I am also stationed in the Feywild. Any parting notes? Because I want to do these kind of fireside chats where we just kind of talk about what's on our minds. We're wrapping up the year. It's been a big year.
So we have more Unearthed Arcana coming before the end of the year.
That's
the
right.
classes I mentioned, along with some other goodies that we will include with those classes. And in addition to that, let's see, we have PAX Unplugged. Chris and I will both be there.
Yeah, I'll be there too.
To talk to people in person about
Okay.
D&D in general, as well as specifically the 2024 Core Rulebooks, along with the game's 50th anniversary. And we will also be having the Acquisitions Incorporated episode that is the epilogue to the video series that we shot that is currently airing. So I also recommend people go watch that series.
It's a really good series. Yeah,
thank you.
It's been really
I have to
we also
catch
have a
up on
movie, and
that.
we have Baldur's Gate 3, so it's amazing to see so many new players like get interested in Dungeons and Dragons this year. So it's been fun.
And there are other products surrounding the core rulebooks that we can't talk about yet, but we'll be excited to next year.
That's right, because we have other books coming out next year, just as a part of it. It's still a regular year of D&D, but also those books all are connected in some way to it being the 50th anniversary. So we will be celebrating
So this is the reference to the 50th anniversary book that we've heard of before.
the 50th anniversary pretty much all of next year, and also into the year after that, because as you often like to point out, the anniversary actually starts later in the year.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very big year. We're not gonna be
Yeah.
busy at all.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to Jeremy and Chris for taking time out. They're clearly not busy days to do a 30-minute video. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So, couple of things. Okay. First of all, it did not feel like that was at 1.5 times speed. I don't know. Maybe it's just me and that's what I'm used to listening to. It felt like it was at 1 times, in my opinion. Okay. So, they referenced PAX Unplugged, which is coming up the first weekend of first weekend of December. I will be there. So first of all, if you see me there, come say hi. I will have swag and stuff like that to give away, as well as I just love meeting people. I'll sign your books if you want. It's still weird that people ask me to do that, but either way. But yeah, there is, as of me recording this, there is no official panels from the Dungeons & Dragons team on the panel list of things for PAX Unplugged. We had very clear defined panels at Gen Con 2024 rules book update, and then all of the subsequent releases that were coming out this year that have already kind of come out or are coming out, right? Book of Many Things, Shattered Obelisk, Big Bees, Planescape, right? Those, we got books or videos. I was able to make videos on all of those because I attended all of those panels. We have nothing currently on the docket for PAX Unplugged. There are games and 50th anniversary special games and things for Dungeons and Dragons, like where you sit, like actual games to sit down and play, but not like specific directive panels from the D&D team. Maybe that will change, but as of right now, there is not any. Obviously, there'll be the AC Inc. live show. But yeah, I'm very curious. I've started watching the, I backed the Kickstarter for AC Inc. and I watched, maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes. I'm falling behind though, so I got to catch up on that. So interesting that the Brawler didn't make it. Now, so what they said is the slot that was contained for the Brawler is going to be filled by something else. We know that going into the 2024 rulebooks, they're going to have 4 subclasses for each of the 12 classes included. This is the first time we're hearing of one that we saw going out with something else coming in. Now, it basically was a better version of the Monk than the Monk in a lot of people's opinions. And this is where it can get interesting if you want to go down a cynical route. Was that put in there to, like, was it ever going to be? Now, it seems like, again, kind of what they're saying, that this is all, like, in flux, right? Whether something's going to appear or not. These rules are kind of, are they going to appear or not? Right? For example, apparently weapon mastery was up in the air. Like, it wasn't something that had to be 100% pushed through. It was something that people liked enough that they pushed it through. So the brawler, could it have been something softballed out there, something for people to reject, and then for them to come out and say, hey, we're removing it because of your feedback, and that was the intention, to show that they're listening? I don't know. But if you want to go down conspiracy, tinfoil hat routes, you obviously can with that, and that's definitely an option you have. But more importantly, what is going to fill that slot? Are we going to see a brand new subclass fabricated to fill that slot? Or are they going to sample something from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything or another book that we've seen in the past and pull it forward? Could this be the opportunity for the Samurai to appear, or the Psy Warrior, or something like that, or something brand new? I personally would love to see something brand new and keep the other ones, because if you keep insisting that they're all compatible with 2014 and previous books, there's no reason to pull forward something unless you think that it was horribly done and it needs a full revamping, like the Purple Dragon Knight / Banneret class from Sword Coast Adventures Guide that wasn't really handled well and kind of was a flop as far as subclasses go. That could use an opportunity to be completely revamped and redone, which would be a pretty good catalyst for it. Would be put it in this book, change the name to not make it Forgotten Realms specific with Purple Dragon Knight, call it the Banneret, call it something else, and revamp it entirely. Or, in my opinion, come up with something brand new. But I really don't want to see something from another book like Tasha's or something just get transported over. We saw that with like the Stars, or was it Stars Druid, and like a couple of these others just got ported over, and that's fine. But I like that if everything is truly directly backwards compatible, then like you didn't have to touch the old stuff. You could have just brought in wholly new things. But either way. So they mentioned that we're going to get at least one more Unearthed Arcana before the end of the year, which is going to include the Barbarian, the Monk, and the Druid. So we're going to see that probably in the next couple of weeks here. I'm guessing maybe the week before American Thanksgiving, or that actual week, the week of PAX Unplugged, would be an interesting time. Release it on a Monday, be at PAX Unplugged on a Friday, and then you could talk to them about their design choices on it. That would actually be kind of cool, or you could maybe see it sometime in December. And according to Chris, they're making little tweaks and adjustments to things all the way up until the books are no longer in their hands. And I think what they mean by that is that the book has been handed off to the printer to go into print, and then like they can't touch it anymore. It's coming out sometime next year. We know they mentioned that the 50th anniversary is a little more towards the end of the year. But I will continue to harp on this fact. How much time do you have to make tweaks and adjustments to your... Now, I know you got Hasbro money, and you can control these kinds of things probably more than other publishers can. But really, what's the turnaround time from get it to the printer to print in mass quantity to get out to people? Because we're closing in on that 12-month period of 2024 for all three of these books to release. And then we're still playtesting the Player's Handbook. And you say you want to do Unearthed Arcanas for the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they're going to be a staggered release. How much time are you going to have to get these things playtested and then get them tweaked and finalized and whatever to a printer to then have them released to people? Now, they did say there's going to be a couple other surprises. There may be some additional things thrown into this Unearthed Arcana. Maybe we'll see more DMG and Monster Manual stuff as a way to get us more stuff earlier so that the books can still release accordingly. We know they said this, it's still a regular year of D&D, so books are still going to come out as they come out. As of this point, we have no idea, other than the 2024 rulebooks, what we're going to see released next year. It seems they mentioned a 50th anniversary book. We heard about some other adventures earlier in the year. We know that Vecna is going to play a part in an adventure. We know that Venger, the villain from the cartoon, is going to make an appearance in some way. We've heard a little bit about these from the D&D Direct earlier in the year about stuff that's going to be cascading out to future years. But we still don't really know anything about content to be released next year. So other than the 2024 rule books, I'm wondering if we're going to get, if it's going to be another Amazon leaks us stuff and we have to make videos on that. Is this going to be, we're going to get a D&D Direct earlier in the year? I think a great opportunity would be to announce something in some big panel at PAX Unplugged with a big spectacle at the end of the Acquisitions Incorporated show. Something where you have a captive audience and then like it explodes and everybody hits social media with it. That would make a lot of sense to me, but either way. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Did I miss anything? Again, interesting to see that we are seeing stuff come out, which I really figured at this point in the Unearthed Arcana process, if we saw it, we are basically going to see that carried forward with the exceptions of tweaks and things like for the monk and the adjustments we've seen for things like the druid. What is also unfortunate is regardless of how you feel about the ranger, it's still going forward as it is. We're not getting any adjustments to that, unfortunately. And really, I didn't think Barbarian needed any tweaks. I thought Barbarian was in a really good spot, but either way. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.